Thank you so much for joining. On behalf of everyone from the 123net side, we're just very grateful for your time today. I know that there are endless amounts of webinars, especially these days. You could probably be on one every single hour of the day. So we're just very appreciative that you made the time, and we plan to deliver some fruitful content for you all. On this webinar today, we're going to take a deep dive into diversity and redundancy and touch on how we can help our partners kind of uncover these opportunities while they're out in the field that will lead to extremely sticky customers, which is what everyone here wants, I'm sure. So we're really excited about this topic and the unique solutions that 123net can offer. On the call today from our team, you have our sales engineer, Rocky Maynard. He's going to be speaking throughout the presentation. Myself, Caitlin Mueller, one of the channel managers, and then we have Bob Adams and Heather Tokman, our channel managers as well. So you'll kind of hear from all four of us throughout the presentation today. Feel free to use that chat window down at the bottom for questions. We will answer those at the very end of the presentation. And then an overview of the topics that we're going to cover. We're going to highlight the true difference between diverse and redundant, kind of what those two words mean, and then how to have the conversation to uncover what your customers' requirements are, what solutions we can design to kind of meet those needs. We'll touch on path, entrance, and carrier diversity options. And then we'll show you a case study with a current 123net customer for each of those examples, so you can kind of see what conversations we had and what solutions we designed for each of those customers. This is the 123net mission statement: building network to make Michigan communities and businesses the best connected on the planet. Many of you have likely been introduced to this already. However, we feel it's the best way to kind of share what 123net is focusing on and where we plan on going. So from the building network standpoint, this is our primary focus. It's one area that we take immense pride in. Our partners have heavily contributed to the growth of our footprint over the past several years. With our in-house design, permitting, and construction crews, we've been able to expand our coverage area very quickly, with the most recent key highlight of lighting our 2,000th commercial building with 123net fiber. So that's been pretty huge for us. And while businesses have kind of always been our main focus and our primary customer, our rapid growth has enabled us to contribute to the communities that we live in as well. So this is anything from providing temporary fixed wireless to COVID-19 testing sites, or installing dark fiber between municipality buildings, and even traditional lit services to school districts all throughout the state. So Michigan's home to us, and we want to better the communities wherever and whenever we can. The best connected on the planet, we're very aware that's a very bold statement, but our team wants to be the best. We want to be the go-to carrier for all of our partners, and we'll continue to strive and focus on that. So I am going to hand things over to Rocky, and he's going to get us started.
Thank you, Caitlin, and good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be discussing several different types of network diversity and the conversations that need to be had when designing a solution for a potential customer that includes them. This includes some types that have slightly interchangeable names like route, path, or last mile diversity, while also addressing diverse entrances as a part of that conversation. Finally, we will conclude by talking about how carrier and IP diversity can play a role in a customer's plan for business continuity. But first, let's begin with some definitions. Now, let me get this out of the way. I can admit that while I'm presenting the exact definitions of these words, I'm being a touch too literal, but I really think it helps to illustrate an important point about the aforementioned conversations. If a customer is using either of these words, we need to really key in, drill down to discern what exactly they're talking about, trying to achieve, and I guess in some cases, more importantly, what they're trying to avoid or protect themselves from. So let's take a moment and run through the definitions. We'll start here with diverse, showing a great deal of variety, very different. Now, we're going to get into more detail in a few moments on this, but here's a quick idea of what we mean. Picture a cabinet in a data center with internet connectivity being delivered to that cabinet. Now, picture two circuits or paths that connect that cabinet to a remote location. And those two circuits do not share any common points along their paths to that location. So, in the event that there is a cable cut, the service at the remote location remains unimpacted because the secondary or diverse path is an option there. So what about redundant? The definition of redundant is not or no longer needed or useful. So if we apply that to our previous example, think of adding the additional circuit and having it take the exact same path or route as the primary path. In this scenario, it's just an additional circuit, and if there were a cable cut, it's very likely that both circuits would be impacted. Having said those things and provided you with the definitions, I would like to make an assertion. Redundant is not what customers want. Okay, maybe sometimes it is. However, in many cases, redundant is not what the customer is looking for, and the use of that word should be a huge indicator that you need to have a deeper conversation about their connectivity and its design. It's all about the conversation. If you take one thing away from this webinar, I hope that you take away an understanding that these topics can be confusing. But today we hope to arm you with the knowledge and the tools to conduct more effective meetings with your clients to better understand their needs and, very importantly, 123net's ability to provide a solution that satisfies them. So there are a few key baseline things that can kind of help us kickstart these conversations, beginning with a business's ability to conduct everyday operations has become so dependent on a constant connection to the internet or to their infrastructure, and we need to understand what those connectivity needs are in order to provide them with the correct solution. So determining how past outages may have impacted their business, as well as the cost of downtime, will play a huge role in deciding whether true full route diversity is necessary. Additionally, there are some important secondary considerations. You can see I've got some of them listed here, and they're great questions to ask. Things like hardware limitations. Does the customer's equipment support the type of connectivity that we're proposing? Perhaps there's a compliance that they need to adhere to. Are they required to have a certain level of diversity? We've seen often that depending on the industry, there may be very specific levels of diversity that are required to ensure uptime guarantees, as well as maintain that compliance. But really, these are just a few pieces of a much larger puzzle that can only be properly completed by having detailed conversations about diversity, redundancy, and what those terms mean to each customer individually. So we'd like to take a second here, and we've thrown up a poll question on your screens. Hopefully you should see it with a couple different options there. But we wanted to ask, which of the diversity solutions listed below are you least aware of? I guess you could interpret this as well to say, which one would you like to know more about? And we can kind of build on that, that desire to learn more and make sure that you get the information that you need. So we're going to leave this poll up here for about a minute or so to hopefully get everyone engaged and kind of see where you are and gauge everyone's understanding. So we'll pause here for just a moment. And again, we thank you for engaging with us. You will not be graded on this response. But it seems like there are some questions here on path diversity and entrance diversity, and that's awesome because those are our first two case studies. So we'll kind of get right into it here. So with the conversations underway, let's talk about the actual solutions for diversity. And I'd like to begin with route or path and last mile diversity. So there are a number of different ways that you can interpret and incorporate each of these types of diversity into a design. For example, a customer could be provided a 123net wireless circuit and a 123net fiber circuit to satisfy the need for last mile diversity. In this case, each circuit type is delivering connectivity via a different path. However, those circuits may be delivered from a common point of presence or a POP site or central office. Sometimes those terms are used interchangeably. Therefore, they do not have complete route or path diversity, and that may be acceptable depending on the customer's tolerance for downtime. I believe Bob has an upcoming example here of a customer that was comfortable with last mile diversity and did not require full path diversity. But the takeaway here is that we have to have the conversation to understand that true need. With that, over to you, Bob, for our first case study.
Thanks, Rocky, and good morning, everybody. In our first case study here, this is an example of the last mile diversity. This solution is one of our most basic diversity options. It's the most cost effective and it doesn't require a lot of engineering support. This Plymouth customer recently experienced some outages caused by local construction crews. So they were looking for last mile diversity to protect them from these types of outages. Our solution included underground fiber with fixed wireless on the roof. This provides a diverse last mile access to the internet. In our diagram here, the red pin represents the customer location. The purple pin represents the central office and the blue pin represents our wireless tower. So looking at the diagram, there are two separate entrances into the central office. This provides the last mile diversity that the customer was looking for. And with that, Rocky, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Bob. Shifting our focus from route and last mile diversity to look toward the customer's actual location, we can begin to talk about entrance diversity and what that means for a robust connectivity solution. When we say entrance, we're referring to the actual penetration point of the building and where that service delivery location or DMARC ends up being. The ability to decide where a service is delivered can really be very important if every other service is delivered to the network room on the east side of the building, let's say. Depending, again, on the customer's tolerance to potential downtime, it may be in their best interest to deliver the service through a penetration point on the west side of the building. In some cases, we've even seen services being delivered to different floors in the same building, like an upcoming example that Caitlin will discuss in greater detail. But to summarize, diversity gives the customer the option to have a separate entrance, and redundancy would have them using the existing entrance and possibly force them to accept a level of risks that their business continuity plan would not allow. So keep having those conversations to better understand the customer's needs. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin to talk about our next case study.
Thanks, Rocky. So what you see pictured here is a case study regarding diverse entrances. This is kind of, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, how you find these very sticky customers that, you know, just kind of aren't able to find these solutions at other carriers. So this is a longstanding 123net customer that a partner introduced us to just originally as a potential co-location customer. After a few deeper conversations about kind of their organization and what their needs are, we learned that, you know, they're an enterprise management software company. So this means their data is mission critical and uptime is essential. We worked together with the partner, the customer, and our sales engineering team to establish a strong solution that includes multiple cabinets within the 123net data center, dual dark fiber paths from separate entrances out of our data center entering not only 2 separate entrances into the customer office, but they're provisioned on separate floors as well. There is Ethernet connectivity over the fiber going to their headquarters. And then they're also picking up a 200 meg IP connection out of our data center. So while the solution is very unique in that the customer is very close to the 123net data center from a distance standpoint, we've deployed very similar dark fiber solutions with dual entrances and diverse paths between customers, whether it be between their existing data center and their main office or warehouse space in their main office. There's a lot that we can do with dark fiber, and our flexibility with doing, just the flexibility that we have with doing all of our builds directly. So on this image, you'll see at the very bottom that pinpoint is 24700 Northwestern Highway, so the main data center. And then at the very top is the customer's location. So exiting one side of our data center, this purple route is one of the dark fiber paths that we took, and we entered, I believe, on the 2nd floor of that building where they already had an AT&T DMARC existing in place. And then this green represents a separate dark fiber path that we took, so entirely separate paths into an entirely separate entrance. And then we're actually provisioned this circuit on the 4th floor, so they kind of have 2 separate DMARCs, 2 separate entrances, 2 separate paths. Extreme diversity is what we were able to offer them here. So pretty cool solution. And Rocky, I'll pass it back over to you to highlight case study number 3.
Thank you, Caitlin. As we conclude our discussions about diversity, I'd like to again shift our focus, but this time I want to look toward the carrier. So carrier diversity, or having 2 or more different carriers providing service, can help protect customers from several things, but that does not mean there are not some pitfalls to be aware of when discussing and proposing a solution that includes them. While IP diversity can protect against things like IP service outages, bad routing, and DDoS attacks, it does not necessarily mean that you're getting a separate last mile connection or path diversity. And I want to pause to kind of let that sink in for a second, because it's important to note that some carriers may not have facilities or network to deliver the last mile to every customer, and they may provide it via another carrier or type 2. It's also entirely possible that their last mile design is the same, meaning if the fiber or copper is fixed to the same telephone pole or in the ground in conduit that happens to be next to the conduit of the primary carrier, the customer may not be getting the diversity in either scenario that they believe they are when adding carrier diversity to their design. Having said that, I want to pass this over to Heather, who is going to explain how she had some of the necessary conversations to help provide a customer with a truly diverse last mile connectivity solution by incorporating carrier diversity.
Sure, thanks Rocky, and hello everyone. This case study is an example of not only path diversity, but carrier diversity as well. This Auburn Hills-based customer was brought to 123net by a valued longtime partner of ours who knew that we would be able to design a custom solution that fit their client's needs. And this particular customer was looking for 2 dedicated internet access fiber circuits with not only the last mile carrier diversity, but path diversity from both carriers. So as a top tier automotive supplier, it was imperative that they have 0 downtime, and to make sure that each provider was coming from a different path inside of a different conduit to prevent an outage in the event of a fiber cut. So as you can see in the map on this slide, 123net customized the solution to build the 2 fiber paths, the blue path from the east using 123net fiber all the way into the building, and the red path from the west using an alternate carrier per the customer's request as the last mile provider. So this dual path created the perfect diversity that the customer was looking for. And I think that does conclude our case studies. So I hope you all learned something new today about diversity. And before we get started with questions and answers, we wanted to give everyone a sneak peek of the upcoming Q3 spiffs that will begin on July 1st. So our network spiffs, will still be offering our great network spiffs for fiber and fixed wireless, which are 2 times on a 3-year term or 3 times on a 5-year term. Our hosted voice spiffs earn up to 6 times spiff on a 5-year term by selling over 50 hosted seats. And our co-location spiff, this is a newer incentive. And in order to fulfill our mission of being the best connected on the planet, we're asking for our partners' help to continue to fill our data centers and add more customers to the Detroit Internet Exchange. This will be rewarded by an additional co-location spiff. So for Q3, we're offering a 3 times spiff on a 3-year term for any co-location deal of $900 in monthly recurring revenue value or more. So let's start having those conversations and scheduling some data center tours. If you need additional Detroit Internet Exchange or co-location resources, please reach out to your channel manager and we'll be happy to provide you with data sheets or statistics or videos to help with your sale. And then lastly, I wanted to remind everyone of our 123net Net Points program to win a free round of golf, lunch, and drinks on 123net. So everyone who attended this webinar today will receive 50 points for the Net Points program. The contest does end July 31st, so let's make sure to get those deals in to get additional points before the end of July. And if you have any questions or need clarification or would like to know what points you're at currently, please contact your channel manager and we'll be happy to help you out. But that wraps up today's presentation. So at this time, I'll open it up for questions and answers. I can already see some coming in, so let's take the first one. This one is for Rocky. What are the distance requirements or limitations of dark fiber solutions?
Yeah, Heather, thanks. This can be kind of tricky, a little dependent. It's a little dependent on the type of equipment that's on each end of the fiber. But really, I guess kind of the short answer here is about 80 kilometers, unless there is any inline amplification going on. That's kind of the short answer. But at the end of the day, it will depend on the type of equipment, the optics essentially on each end.
Great, thanks, Rocky. I see a question. This one's for Caitlin. How quickly can 123net design a diversity solution?
Sure. So as you kind of seen from the case studies, a majority of these solutions are going to be custom built, custom tailored solution, all depending on the customer's requirements, their required uptime, and also their allocated budget. So these are not standard, simple, out-of-the-box solutions that we have, a basic rate deck for. Many of these solutions are going to require us to take a deep dive into, our network footprint KMZ files, as well as understanding if there's other carrier networks involved. So you're going to work very closely with your customer as well as the sales engineering team on many of these solutions. But if a partner engages us in a conversation with a customer and we're able to determine a possible solution in that initial phone call or video call or in-person meeting, whatever it is, we should be able to turn around a first draft in about a week or so. But just keep in mind, likely these solutions are going to kind of evolve as we uncover more of their requirements and as we get closer to implementation. But we can likely turn something around in about a week.
Thanks, Caitlin. One more question that just came in. Are your offices open again and allowing co-location tours of the facilities at customer requests? Maybe Rocky, do you want to touch on that from a security?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So I guess to address the first part of that, our offices are open. We've got some team members that are back at the office. A large number of us are still remote, but the offices are open. We are allowing colo tours. We've had a few already in the last few weeks. We are taking the necessary steps to make sure everyone stays safe, but we are open and ready to conduct tours. Absolutely.
Yes, I think everyone's excited to get back and get those in-person tours. So we're looking forward to that. This is a good question. What are the qualifying questions to help guide a customer discussion when talking about diversity versus redundancy? So as Rocky mentioned, there are many types of diversity options, and there can be different interpretations or understanding of what diversity means or redundancy. So once you uncover a customer that has mission critical data and they're open to discussing diverse options, contact your channel manager. We're happy to set up a meeting with our sales engineering team and confirm the details and then define a custom solution and maybe give some, additional options that the customer may not have originally thought of when designing their solution. So getting us involved as quickly as possible is usually the best way to get the right solution for your customer. All right, and I think that does wrap up today's presentation. So again, thank you all for joining, and we hope to see you all in the near future.
Thanks, everyone.